Hello again, everyone. This is Zombie Kids Rule, and I'm back with what I hope is going to be the second part, part two of the tutorial series for how I made or the making of Krampus Games. I previously posted a full playthrough that pretty much shows all the features of Krampus Games, and then I posted a smaller video that kind of highlighted the skippable features, right? The feature that allows you to skip content, and I highlighted a couple plugins in each of those. And then part one, I covered sort of the beginning. And what I'm going to try to do, unlike other tutorials where I walk through step by step every single part, I'm just going to try to highlight the things that that are either I haven't done before, so I know I haven't done tutorials for, or just very quickly reference things that I know I have done before in previous tutorials, because the whole idea is to basically share how I did certain things in the hope that it might help people who are just learning. So again, my caveats, actually I don't remember all my caveats, but the biggest one is I always like to say I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm still learning RPG Maker MZ. I'm still learning how to use JavaScript for scripting. Haven't really delved into plugins too much. That's on my to-do list. It's on my goals for 2024 is learning more about plugins. But all I'm trying to do here is share things that I've learned to do, that I've experimented with, that I know work. And see if it helps people. I'm not saying these are the best ways to do things. I'm not saying these are the most efficient way to do things. In fact, I know some things can be more efficient. I'm just sharing what I've been able to do, and hopefully that helps people who are newer and still trying to figure out how to do things and still learning. So anyway, that's the only caveat I'm going to put out there, and let's jump into this. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Already did part one. So in for this part two, we're going to go into the. I'll just highlight this again. This game had one map with pretty much no map whatsoever. The player is invisible. They're frozen. Again, there's only one map. There's essentially 4 events and then common events, and all these events are triggered pretty much by auto run, right? Auto run or running in parallel, because this particular game doesn't have the typical RPG Maker control type stuff. So this event was triggered to run first. As soon as the map loads up, it runs auto run, and we already covered the content of page 1 in the part 1 of the tutorial. So page 2. Once the self switch A is turned on at the end of page 1, page 2 becomes active, and you'll notice here again I highlighted this script here in the previous video that allows you to clear all pictures. That shouldn't be necessary here, but there were some weird things happening, so I actually put it in 2 different places. This should be redundant, but whatever. It's just a quick script that allows you to clear all the pictures instead of erasing them one at a time. This is an example of that thing I showed in part 1 of the video, where I had created 2 switches. One was for if you chose to be able to skip certain content, and then one was if you pick the Game Jam version. So here there's a conditional branch that is basically checking and saying if the switch Game Jam version is on, then you need to do something. And what you're going to do is you're going to jump to label Game Jam Random Child. Basically, it's skipping the next content here, and it's going down to where it's going to randomly generate a character. So it's not going to give you the option of creating your own character, essentially. So that's what the value of having this switch is, and you can just throw in a conditional branch anywhere you want and say, hey, if this is on, do something. And then, of course, if it's off, then it'll just continue to flow through the event. So this right here is just using the plugin text picture. I've highlighted that in previous videos. You essentially take text and it will display it as a picture. And you can do anything you want just like you can in the show text. And when you hover over this, it doesn't give you the same thing that it does in the show text command. If you don't remember how to use the different things like colors and stuff like that, you'd have to go back to show text to look it up. But once you activate this plugin, it's a simple thing of you're on page 3 and it's plugin command, and then you choose whichever plugin you want. If you click text picture, it tells you how it works, and then you have to double click and you have to type in whatever text you want to display as an image. And then in order to finish that, you have to show a picture. So this plugin command requires that you show a picture with no image, because the text is in fact the image. And then so this is just once again doing that thing of you're showing a picture with 0 opacity, so it's invisible, and then you're going to use move picture over a duration of 180 frames to bring that up to full appearance, right? So that I highlighted that in the previous part 1. Let's see, and then of course just simple wait commands. This is presenting an option of talking to the character, show text, and then eventually show choices. Erasing picture 1. So we showed the text and then we're going to erase it. This again is doing the making a new background, right? So with background images, you can pretty much use any picture you want as long as you make it the right size and you put it in the right folder of your project. So this is just starting to display a picture, again 0 opacity, right? And then move picture to make that fade in. Show choices, I've highlighted that before, and I've highlighted the fact that you can use icons, right? So this right here, /I, and then the number of the icon in brackets, and that will display the icon in just like it would in a show text. So if I'm here and I do the little test function, then you'll see that it will display the icon, right? And then, of course, I've highlighted show pictures before, or I should say show choices before. And then this is just setting up some criteria that's needed. So, for instance, if they choose I'm ready to be a random child, then certain things that they would have picked have to be set. So this is setting a label Game Jam Random Child because later on in the event I need to jump back here to if you want to. I added the feature where you could regenerate a random child. So this is going to generate a random child, and then if you want to try it again, it'll jump back to this label and then reset everything. So there's a variable here setting the player age. So player age number is equal to, it's randomly going to generate between 5 and 10, right? So we've seen this before, taking a variable that you name, setting it to a random number between whatever you want. And then same thing with gender code. In this game, I have a boy is a 1, a girl is a 2, and gender neutral is a 3. So this is randomly deciding the gender code. And then it goes into some conditional branches. These are nested conditional branches. If the gender code is 1, so if this value, random value is a 1, then it's going to set these other variables. So the variable for gender is going to equal the string of boy. The variable for relationship is going to equal the string of brother, so that you can use these in, say, for instance, show text. The variable for avatar is going to be random 1 through 6 because there's 6 avatars for boy, there's 6 avatars for girl, and there's 6 avatars for gender neutral. And then the name, there's a variable for random name is going to be randomly generated 1 through 8, and then here are the names. So again, nested conditional branches, meaning here's a conditional branch, and then within this conditional branch are other conditional branches, right? So if random name is equal to 1, then we're going to use the change name option to change the name of the actor child to Noah, right? So here's the event command, change name. You pick the actor you want, and then you type in the name that you want, okay? This is doing it where the player isn't doing it, right? And the event is actually in page 1, right? So event commands, page 1, under actor, change name, okay? And then if the random name is 2, then you're going to change the name to Liam. And honestly, folks, I just use the internet and search for common boys' names, most common girls' names, and then most common why can't I think of the term? It's not gender neutral, but basically names that are either for boys or girls, right? So here's setting them: Noah, Liam, Oliver, Elijah, Mateo, Lucas, Ezra, and Asher. And then that was all under the conditional branch if the gender code is 1. And then all I did was copy and paste this. So if gender code is 2, change that to a 2, then the variable gender becomes girl, relationships becomes sister, avatar is 7 through 12, and the random name is 1 through 8 again. And then these just changed the names. So Olivia, Emma, Amelia, Sophia, Charlotte, Eva or Ava, Isabella, and Mia. And then, once again, copied and pasted. Gender code equals 3. Then the gender variable is going to be the string of child. The relationship is going to be the string of sibling. The avatar will be randomly generated from 13 to 18. And I'll show you the common event that does that avatar selection. And then the random name, again, 1 through 8. And then just change the names here. Avery, Quinn, Rowan, Ren, Kai, Bailey, Brooklyn, and Taylor. Those are all gender-neutral names, right? So once that's done, then it's going to fade out that picture, so 90 frames going back to 0, and then it's going to erase it. So once we faded it out, we're going to erase it, and it's gone. Then there's the common event random avatar. So I'm going to go ahead and show that now. So common event random avatar. So go to common events, random avatar. And this is a pretty simple common event. Basically all it's doing is it's saying if the avatar value is 1 through 18, then show this picture. Show the applicable picture. So I have 6 boy portraits, and then I have 6 girl portraits, and then I have 6 gender-neutral portraits. Now, I will throw a caution out here. This is where planning comes into play. I'll actually make 2 comments here. One, if you ever decide to do things with pictures, make sure they're all the same size, because I did not do that. I found pictures on the internet that are free to use. They were all different sizes. And so I needed to resize them as I went through this. And in doing that, created a ton of more work because I had to make them appear correctly on the screen, and all the pictures weren't the same. So if all of these portraits were exactly the same size, same pixels, same size, they appeared perfectly the way they should, like they would with the default images in MZ, like the RTP runtime package, then it would be a simple thing of taking the X and Y coordinates, right, 320, and that would be the same for every single picture. But that's not the way it works, because I used pictures of different sizes, and it was a pain in the butt. So the boy portrait 1 is X and Y of 320, and it's 100%, 100% as far as the height and width. Boy Portrait 2 is the same. Boy Portrait 3 was the same. Boy Portrait 4 was the same. Boy Portrait 5 was the same. But then Boy Portrait 6 was different. I needed a different X, and I needed a different size. And then the same thing was true with the Girl Portrait. So Girl Portrait 5, it has different X value, different sizing. So I had to manually check every single one of these to make sure it appeared where it was supposed to. So that's one thing. If you're going to use images, try to make sure they're all sized the same way before you do something. The other thing I noticed that I actually messed up on was that when I was creating this and I was doing, the first thing I did was I displayed all the avatars, all the boy avatars, then all the girl avatars, and then all the gender neutral avatars. And in order to make them appear the way I wanted to on the screen, I moved them around. So instead of the boy portraits went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the screen. Great, wonderful. That was awesome. The girl portraits didn't work that way. So it actually went, when you see all 6 of them on the screen, it was Girl Portrait 1, and then Portrait 5, then 3, then 6, then 2, and then 4. So in order to keep it straight, I had to make sure that every time I was referring to the girl portraits, they weren't in order 1 through 6. And that actually caused problems because I forgot. And it's the same thing with the gender neutral ones. It was gender neutral portrait 2, 5, 3, 4, and 1. And that was just the way I displayed them on the screen. So that's the first. Those are a couple things I would comment on. And so all this event is doing is you're calling this comment event and saying if whatever value the avatar is, then show that portrait and show it where I want to see it. Okay, and this is what it'll do. I'm just gonna again test this. I can test any one of these. Whoops, sorry, I can't test that whole thing. You've got to test just the picture. And I wanted it to appear here in the middle, right? And so we noticed that Portrait 6 was different, had different sizes. So I had to just test to make sure it was all showing up and it wouldn't be messing up anything that might be displayed on these other sizes. Okay. Same thing with this, where you can see that these changed, right? And it was just a thing of, whoops. It was just a thing of, I want the portrait to show here. And so this one had to be a little bit different if I wanted it to show up in the same spot roughly without encroaching on other things that were going to be on the screen. So that's all this comment event is doing. It's a series of 18 conditional branches. If it's a 1, show this portrait. If it's a 2, show this portrait. And then that's it. That's all that comment event does. It's showing that portrait on the screen. Okay? Let's see. So then, and another nice thing is when you come back to these events, it brings you back to where you were, right? That's kind of cool. So it did the common event random avatar. It showed that on the screen. Then I had to do this a bunch because I wanted to do the gender coloring. If you picked boy, then some text is in blue. If you pick girl, some text is kind of pinkish. And if you had a gender neutral, then some text is more purplish. So that meant every single time I had to have these 3 different show text. If gender code is 1, then show the text like this. Okay, so your name will be, here's the blue child. You're 0 years old because that hasn't been set. You'll be referred to as this would be boy, and this will be your avatar, right? Versus if I had picked a girl, then different color, right? And this would be girl, okay? So that decision early on made me have to do this every single time I wanted to show a difference between boy, girl, or gender neutral. It's just a lot of extra work, that's all. And then this is the option where it says, is this child satisfactory or would you like to try again? And then you get a choice. Yeah, sounds cool, I'll keep them, or no, I wanna try again. So this is going to erase that picture that the common event displayed. And if you say I'm good, it's gonna jump to label skipped, right? Which means it's gonna skip this make your own child, customize your child, all those parts of the event. If you want to try again, it's going to jump back to that label random child, which is right here, right? Random child. And so it shows the background, lets you choose again, right? You're going to be a random child or you're going to create your own child. And then it re-goes through all those random assignment of things. Okay? So anyway, there's that. And let's see. So you either keep them or you don't. Then if you chose let me be my own kid, so I want to customize, then this move picture gets rid of the picture that's on the screen. It erases it, starts some music. So play background music. And then there's show text. There's another fade in here. So this is show picture with 0 opacity and then fade it in. Now this I've highlighted before, and so I'll just quickly mention it again. This is a great script that I use quite a bit. And this is where you're using a script to set either turn on or turn off a self switch in an event. So, and I've highlighted this in previous tutorials. $game capital self capital switches dot set capital value parentheses bracket. The 1 is the map, so we're on map 1. The 3 is the event, whichever event you want to do a self switch on. The A is the self switch A, B, C, or D. Brackets, comma, and then true means you're turning the switch on. False means you're turning it off. And then you have your closing parentheses and a semicolon. I think I've mentioned this before. I have this in a Word document so that I can remember it and I can copy and paste it. If you do that, you got to make sure that you probably retype these single quotations, because when you copy and paste it from, especially a Word document, the quotation marks are usually wrong and it will mess it up. It'll have an error. So you have to make sure these single quotations are actually correct. And all that's doing is it's turning on self switch A of event 3, rotating pictures, in the map 1, which is only one map. As soon as we do that, command, right, using a script, then what's going to happen is this rotating picture is going to self switch A is turned on. So now page 1, right, because page 1 had a self switch A, which means it wasn't going to run, and it's going to run in parallel. So it's going to run by itself while other things are happening. So by turning on that self switch, it activates this event to run in parallel. All it does is it's doing those rotating pictures that come onto the screen. So for instance, here, if you don't remember from the playthrough video, it just rotates the picture to where you want it to be. So I started low and then I brought it up to the corner. So the first, you show the picture, and then you define the X and Y. So X of 100, Y of 400. 80% is just the size of the picture I wanted, right? And 0 opacity, so it starts off invisible. And then I set the rotate picture command, picture 2, and I set it to a speed of 5. So rotate picture allows you to choose a picture, and it's just going to rotate in a circle, and you can decide how fast it goes. And then as it starts to rotate, I'm going to move the picture, and I'm going to move it from X of 100 and a Y of 400 to X of 690 and Y of 80. And same size, and then opacity 255, so it's becoming more and more visible. And I'm doing that over a 144 frame time period. And we're waiting for it to happen. Why 144 frames? Well, very simple. Because I needed to time it so that the picture stopped where it was level. It wasn't tilted in any, in any different angle. And then we have to do the rotate picture again to stop it. We have to set the speed to 0, which stops it from rotating. So once again, here's what it looks like. And this is running in parallel while something else is happening. So that's perfect, right? That's pretty cool. Now watch what happens if I change this to, I'm going to remember that this is 144. Let's change this to 150. Okay, so it was 144. Let's change it to 150. And then I test it. See, it's off kilter. So what I had to do was I had to take the speed that I wanted and then figure out what the duration would be of the movement to make sure that it stopped and it was level. It was where I wanted it to be. It was just trial and error. But that's how you do a rotating picture. You show it, start it rotating, move it wherever you want to do, and then stop the rotation. And that's what these other three things are doing here too. These are all just rotating pictures, right? There are 4 pictures that come rotating in. So you pick a spot where you want it to start, and then you pick a spot where you want it to stop, and you just do the rotation command. Okay, and remember you have to stop the rotation. And what you can do is you can basically if you want to just get it where you want it to be, you could do the show picture make it visible so you know where you're starting. You could do the move picture and make sure it's stopping where you want it to stop. And then you can insert the rotate pictures to make sure that you know where it's going to stop, and then you just have to make sure you stop it from rotating at the right spot. Okay, and that's pretty simple there. And then it turns on its own self switch B, which advances the page, and there's nothing, right? It's an action button, so it's not auto running or anything, and it's just going to turn itself off basically. Okay. So you know what? Let's just apply that. Okay. So going back here to page 2. So once this happens, this event, auto running, displays a background, turns on that self switch A of the rotating picture event. That starts rotating the pictures in on top of this background. And at the same time, you start to get show text options, right? So the show text is going to display. Here's that if your skip and choice switches on again, give the player a choice, right? Do you want to skip or do you not want to skip? Let's see. And then if depending on what you choose, we might have to jump label to a name check, right? Because there's quite a few jump to labels in here because you're kind of moving back and forth. You're skipping some stuff, you're going backwards sometimes, you're jumping forward sometimes. All right, let's see. Now, the one other thing that I'll highlight in this video, okay, I'll highlight this in this video and then I'll wrap this one up. This is the naughty bad word filter check. And what this is this is another one of those things that I was curious about experimenting with, and I said, hey, can I keep the player from inputting something that I don't want them to, right? I don't want them to put in a really bad word or something to name their character. Now, this is a lot of work, and you'll never be able to check every single thing that somebody might come up with. But what I wanted to do was test the concept. Could I even do it? And the answer is yes, you can, and I'm going to show you how. So this is the naughty and bad word section about how to do the name check. So I have a common event, name check. right? And so let's see first. Yeah, name input. So where was that? So here we go. Skip. Label is name check. Common event is the name check. And this appears here. I'm trying to think of why, because just bear with me for a second. I can't remember exactly why that's there. So, I mean, meaning it appears where it appears. So here's a comment, here's another comment, here's my label. My common event is the name check, and it's checking some things. If real name input is on, okay, if the naughty word test is done, if the name put equals, yeah, and this is checking the results. Label, control variable, name input is 2. This is all checking. Here's this. What? Oh, I know what I'm missing. Sorry. I was confused for a minute. So name check. So inside the common event is where you input the name. Okay, so I apologize for that. That's my mistake. I was for some reason I was thinking I put the input input name processing. I thought I put it in this event, but I did not. I put it in the common event. So this common event it's calling the common event name check. So when it does that, here's the name check common event. And first thing, I have a label retry. That means we're jumping back here for some reason. This control variable name input equals 0. That's just making sure that because we come back to this common event, we're just making sure that the variable for the name input is it doesn't remember it. Okay. Now, I will just warn you, I probably should have warned you ahead of time, there's a bunch of bad words in this video, or there's a bunch of bad words on this screen. This is probably one of the only times you're going to see a bunch of very, very bad words in a computer program. So this is name input processing, and this is basically allowing the player to change the name of an actor. And you can tell how many characters. It only goes up to 16, right? It only allows up to 16. So you can set it lower or a maximum of 16. So this is going to let the player input a name for the actor child and then rename them. And then this is this looks very daunting, but it's a very simple thing. This is the very bad word check. So let me just open this up. It's a script. Okay, it's a script. And the most important part is because this is all just copied and pasted. So this is going to be, basically this is a script, a conditional branch script. If, and then parentheses, $game capital actors dot actor, and then within parentheses 1. So that's saying if actor 1 dot name and then the empty parentheses. So if the name of actor 1, so basically actor 1, and then it's using this dot to capital lower capital case and then parentheses. What that's doing is this is making all the letters in whatever is typed or whatever appears, right? It's going to make them all lowercase. So if the player inputs all capital letters for the name of actor 1, this is going to make them all lowercase. Okay? So that way it's checking for the lowercase word. So let me just say it this way, I guess. If the player inputted all capital letters, or if they did something like capital letter, lowercase, capital letter, lowercase, capital letter, lowercase, or 3 capitals, 3 lowercase, what this is doing is it's saying, you know what? Ha 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 ha. No, I'm going to change them all to lowercase letters so that I can just search for the things I'm looking for in the lowercase. And I'll detect it, and then, that'll be good. And then the last part of that is dot includes. So what this is doing is the dot includes is saying, hey, does the name of actor 1 that it's been converted to lowercase, does it include whatever is in this quotations? Okay, does it include this string? Okay, offset by quotations. And so in this case, the very first thing it checks is if or does the first name, or does the name of actor 1 that the player input converted to lowercase, does it include the string balls? Okay, and then you have these 2 lines going up and down, right? This is an or. Okay, so this whole script is filled with all these or checks. So if the name that the player input for actor 1 converted to lowercase, if it includes balls, double line, and then you repeat it, or $game actors.actor1.name, right, to lowercase, same thing, copy and pasted, does it include this? Right? Does it include bitch? Or, right? Or repeated blow. Bolo. I'm not going to read all these, okay? But I'm sure you can see them. What I did was I searched the internet for all of the slang and dirty words, right? And again, this is just for testing purposes, because there's gonna be some arguments about what is really bad versus what is just naughty, whatever. If you were doing this for real life in a game, you'd just be coming up with things you don't want the player to use, right? You wouldn't be differentiating whether it's kind of bad or really bad. You're just being like, no, you can't use this. So this script is the same all the way down. You're copying and pasting this, right? Changing what's in the quotations, and you're using these double lines or to have it check all of these things. And this just goes all the way down. These are just a whole bunch of things that I put in there, and then I finally said, you know what, I'm going to stop. When you get to the last one, here's a couple things I'm going to point out. You notice that each one of these, there's 1 parentheses, right? 1 parentheses. Okay? And then the double line. When you get down to the last one, there has to be a second parentheses. Okay? There's a closing. This one here is a closing parentheses. So you get all of these, all the strings that you want to check. Then it's the curly brackets. Then it's $game capital variables dot set capital value 5. This is setting the value of variable 5 to 1. All right, so variable 5 is being set to 1. Closing brackets, semicolon, and then closing curly bracket. That is the script, okay? And you're going to see this again. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. This is what it appears like, of course, in the game. So you start off with the if. You have your opening parentheses, right? This middle part, right? This is all one check. Is it checking, it's checking for this string. This parentheses goes with this one. So there is no closing parentheses yet. So you've got your first check and then the double line, or your second check, double line, or your third check, right? And you can do that as many times as you want. And then at the end, you have that closing parentheses, the curly brackets, and then you're going to say, okay, if any of these things, right, if any of these things are in what the player typed, then we're going to set the value of variable 5 to 1. Okay? And then that closing curly bracket. These right here are just basically the check, right? So if it's a value of 1, we're doing a conditional branch. If name input, that's what the player input, that's the variable, is equal to 1, meaning that it found one of these things, then it's going to do something, right? It's also checking here, real name input is off. So because the way I designed this was, in the game, you can try it out without getting in trouble, but once you progress to the real name, then you better not do it, or else you're going to be in trouble. So I have a switch, real name input. So when they're supposed to be inputting their real name, the switch is turned on, and then there's going to be consequences if you use one of these things. But this is saying, hey, if that's off, then fine, I'll just show you, some language about what you did. Okay, and then this is control switch. Game over is on. That's if you've triggered a loss, and name input is being set back to 0, and then exit event processing. Right. So that was the bad word check. And then we have the naughty word check. It's the exact same script, just different words, right? So, or strings, right? So exact same script, different strings. And again, I just came up with a whole bunch to test until I got tired of it and said, okay, no more. I'm going to cut it off. And then this changes to a 2. So if it finds one of these, then the value is a 2 of variable 5. And so then we do our conditional branch. If name input which is 5, is 2, then it's going to check, is the real name input switch on, right, or off. If it's off, then fine, right, you get a free pass. Else, meaning it's on, then you're doing something you weren't supposed to, and you could have consequences, right? This is giving them a warning. Right? If the name input warning is off, that switch is off, then you get a warning for doing something you're not supposed to. And then you turn that switch, name input warning, to on. And then you jump back to that label retry. But if the warning's already on, right, then when it checks and it's like, uh-oh, you're in trouble. Okay. So then this one would exit event processing if that's true as well. And then this is an impersonation check. So I'm sure most players that played didn't even know this was in here because I didn't prompt them to test this. It's the same script. Obviously, it's just much shorter, and it's checking to say, did they try to use Krampus or did they try to use Santa? Okay, so same script as before, just shorter. And if they did that, if they used one of those strings, then the variable 5 is set to 3. And then the conditional branch says if name input is equal to 3, then we're gonna, follow through. I can't believe you just tried to impersonate somebody. And then it goes through its thing. Is the warning on? Is it off? Is real name input on or off? Right? And then it follows through. Let's see. And then these are just, again, the rest of the checks. Okay, so what I really wanted to highlight here was that script that allows you to try to check what the player input to, if you want to go through the effort, to screen out what they're permitted to do, right? And what you could easily do is you just say, hey, if they used one of these, right, you could easily just have one of these checks that say, hey, if this is a 1, then you could just show, hey, you can't use that, right? You use something, you're not allowed to use that name, right? Or a part of this name contains a word that is not permissible, and then you make them re-enter it, right? So you're not going to be able to identify which one they did, at least not the way I did it. This is just a, hey, did they use any of these things? If so, then don't let them do that, right? You can catch them doing it. Okay, so there's the script, and again, you can put as many things in you want there. I was just doing this to see, can I do it? And the answer is yes. And then how to do it and make sure that it's working correctly. Is it detecting which one in this case, right? Is it really bad or is it naughty, and that sort of thing. Okay, and then so back here, essentially where this is it runs that common event, and then it goes through some checks, right? If the real name input is on, then we're going to jump down to the real name check, right? If the naughty word test is done, then we're going to jump to label dirty word. Basically, all this is where are you in this process? Are you doing the filter test, or are you supposed to be inputting your real name? Have you gotten a warning already, or not? Right, and that sort of thing. And then it just displays text when you come back, depending on the results, and it moves you to where you need to be in the event. Let's see, and then I also put in the possibility here. This is where you just have to test your conditional branches. So, like for instance, when you come back here, right, it checks this conditional branch. Is this switch on? If so, jump to this label. Okay, well, if it's off, it's going to go check here. Is this switch on? Naughty word test done. Is it on? If it is, then it's going to jump to this label. If it's off, then it's going to come down here and check this. If name input is 1, meaning it found a really, really bad word, it's going to show them text and then jump to label naughty word. So it's going to skip this other stuff. If it's not a 1, then it's going to check this. Is name input equal to 2? If so, show them this, jump to a different label, right? Naughty word, actually, because we're moving forward to the same place. If it's not a 2, it checks to see, is it a 3, right? Is it a 3? Show them this text, jump to label naughty word. But what if it didn't find anything? If the filter didn't find anything, so it's not a 1, it's not a 2, it's not a 3, then that means it's something else. Well, in that case, it checked all of these conditional branches. It didn't jump anywhere, so it just automatically runs this next part of the event, right? And what this is, did you manage to slip one by me? That's a nod to maybe they typed something in that should have been in the filter and it wasn't. Are you just very inventive, meaning you're making up your own naughty words or bad words? Or are you really bad at thinking up, for instance, naughty words, right? Meaning that you typed in something that's not really a naughty word or a bad word. Okay? And that's how that gets dealt with. Gives them the option to try it again. Do you want to do it again, or do you just want to proceed? And then, depending on what their choice is depends on what it does. For instance, this is resetting the name input to 0, right? If they're going to do it again, resetting the name input to 0. Going back to name check. If you're going to proceed, don't be so juvenile, I don't want to do this anymore, then it turns on that naughty word test done switch. Okay, they did the naughty word test and now it's done, right? And now we're going to move on. The dirty word test is exactly the same. So this is just prompting them to try doing a dirty word, which goes back to the same common event, and it checks the same things. Okay, and then when it comes back, it does similar results in the show text. What did they actually type in? Here's your, let's see. All right, and then you finally get down to where they're supposed to put in their real name, right, or the name that they want to use, and then there's some other options. So I'm going to stop there, right? So the really I wanted to stop with that that highlighting that bad naughty name filter. Okay, so what this kind of talked about was once again just highlighting a few things from the previous videos. The previous part one, talking about setting up the random child, portion of the event, talking about the decision to have different gender codes, which means that every time you're going to have text or something that is affected by the gender choice, you have to have 3 different options, which just creates a lot more work. Didn't think about that when I started down that path, but it's true. I highlighted the random avatar common event, right, which is just checking what's the number of the avatar and then show that on the screen. And let's see, and then covered this using a script to turn a self switch on or off, right, on any map, any event, which is really cool, very versatile. I use that a lot. And then went into the name filter, right, this thing here. So we do input processing, and then checks to see if you did something you weren't supposed to, right? And it's pretty much the same text over and over and over and over and over again with just a different string, looking for different strings. And then this is the or check, right? The 2 vertical lines is or. Okay, and don't forget, you at the end you need your closing bracket. So there's parentheses. Sorry, there's 2 parentheses there. Okay, and this lowercase, that's really important, because if you whether they type in all caps or some caps or whatever, doesn't matter, because this script is lowering all of that to lowercase, so that it can then just check lowercase values, and it's using the .includes option for that. Does this name include this string? Okay. All right. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope it wasn't too confusing. I'm feeling like this is a little confusing because I'm not doing the line by line, code by code, everything, explaining it, been kind of jumping around a little bit. But hopefully it's highlighting concepts that are helpful to you, and it's highlighting individual pieces that you might be able to use, or it might prompt you to think of other ways to use some of these things. All right, so that's part 2, and whenever I'm able to, I will try to go on to part 3, again highlighting different things that I learned and that I experimented with and learned while making this game. So I hope this is helpful to someone. Thank you for watching. If these videos are helpful to you, or you appreciate the effort that goes into, consider liking, liking, subscribing, getting notifications, leaving comments. If you have questions about something, if I skipped something, if I missed something, if I said something in a way that was confusing, or if you can't figure something out, by all means leave a comment. Okay, I'm happy to help. And you can also find me on rpgmakerweb.com, the forums over there. My username is ZombieKidsRule over there. You can always go over there and you could private message me if you wanted to. But anyway, hope this is helpful. Hope you guys are having a great holiday season. Hope you're enjoying your time. Hope you're having a great day. And until I can get another video up, happy gaming, happy game developing, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.